Alright, so what do you think a human trafficker looks like?
I don't know. Probably could be anyone.
Yeah. What are the types of trafficking?
Like, teenagers or?
What do you think trafficking involves, like, when you're trafficking something?
Probably I would say it's more like females. You can like take them into like your.
Do you know what human trafficking is about?
It's like the abduction of someone and then trafficking them into another use.
What would you say is like the main reason why people get trafficked? Like
Sex
what
trafficking.
for?
Sex trafficking.
Another question is, do you know if human trafficking happens around this area?
I know it happens in Coconut Point, but as far as that,
The Hyatt is actually
also,
one of the biggest places for
for the tomato farms
labor. So not just sex, but labor.
So where do you think in the U.S. that human trafficking is most prominent?
The Midwest.
And where would you think in Florida is most prominent for human trafficking?
South.
And what public places can people be trafficked from?
Most often suburban areas.
And what would you say a trafficker looks like?
Anybody can be a trafficker. Human personality doesn't qualify what a person may act or do.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.
So what is the main reason that people get trafficked?
Money, I guess. Money and drugs and all that bad stuff.
Okay.
And where do you think is the most common for human trafficking in the United States?
Metropolitan cities, maybe.
And what about in Florida? Where in Florida do you think is the most popular?
Miami.
Why did you pick Miami? Just because it's
A lot of people there.
a lot of people there?
A lot of people there. You won't know what's happening.
Question is, do you know what human trafficking is? Okay, so like, can you elaborate?
Human trafficking is basically treating humans as, you could say, like a product. Like trade, like in an economy, pretty much.
So for money.
Yeah, for money, to try and benefit from it themselves.
Do you think human trafficking happens around here?
I think it happens everywhere.
Do you think it's more closer to like the coast or the bigger cities, or do you think it's more like rural, like smaller towns?
In the bigger cities, there usually tends to be a little more diversity. So I'd say that there's like in Miami, for example, there's a lot of diversity there. So
Do you think Miami is definitely one place where it happens? Okay. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Sally.
Hey, Sally.
Nice to meet you. I'm really glad you can answer a couple questions for us. My first question is, what are the types of human trafficking or trafficking in general?
There would be slavery, human slavery, sex trafficking.
What do you think a trafficker would look like for those types of trafficking, like a slavery or sex trafficker?
I would have guessed that there's not a real specific profile. It varies.
Great.
Sometimes they're family members. Like,
Foster family parents usually are one of the highest people who actually slave their kids, yeah. Like they have foster kids just to try to make money off of them. Yeah. My first question is, do you think human trafficking happens around this area?
Yes.
Do you know like what public places it might be happening?
public places. I know that it happens in Immokalee.
Immokalee, okay, like coalition for human.
Right, right. Well, they documented cases in Immokalee. And, you know, I know that probably there are households, they're not public places, but there are households. Yeah, I've read that, you know, there are massage parlors and, you know, are places where human trafficking may be occurring. But I don't know, I mean, I don't know for sure, so.
Can you, like, kind of give us an idea or an image of what a victim might look like? Or, like, what, like, you know, why a trafficker would pick that person out of everyone else?
Okay, well, a lot of trafficked people are going to be female, and I think they're going to be Hispanic or Latino, right? Because you know that's one of the ways in which they manage to emigrate into the United States, right? And or one of the conditions, right, so that you know they emigrate and then you know they're forced into some form of servitude. So I suspect that they're going to be from Central America rather than from Mexico. The Central American migrants are more vulnerable to that. And but then you know, I think there's going to be a difference between trafficking victims in terms of coastal regions and rural regions. So in Immokalee, I think you know trafficking victims are going to tend to be male and you know be tied to some kind of you know forced labor farm working arrangement, and in the more coastal regions, I think it's going to be female and maybe tied to either domestic work or some form of sexual work.
So can you tell me where around Fort Myers that might be human trafficking happening?
Most likely not.
Most likely not?
Not really any ideas.
How about, do you know what human trafficking like could be about? Like what people get trafficked for?
Do I have to answer what it's for? Well, most cases would involve sex trafficking of people from all areas of the world.
Anything else? No?
That's really all I know.
Thank you.
Danielle, do you know what human trafficking is?
Yes. It's funny, the misconceptions that people think human trafficking are a whole bunch of illegals in a train coming in here, but I just went to a Vox event on Thursday. So it was a sex workshop where we talked about human trafficking. And it's as easy as being picked up in the mall here, actually. They got a lot of accounts here in Gulf Coast Town Center, Miramar, of girls that they see are a little bit vulnerable and weak, and they can easily catch them as prey, make them fall in love, and then they got them because it has to do a lot psychological-wise than many people assume it to be. So yeah, it's more often than you think. It's more closer to home than we think.
Where do you think human trafficking is the most prominent in the U.S.?
I don't know, but I know there's been a lot of cases down here.
What about Florida?
Florida, yeah. I don't know where, but I know it's around here.
First off, you guys know what human trafficking is. Can you tell me about human trafficking?
It's when people are like taken from wherever they're from and like put into a system of like forced labor.
Okay.
Or like, I don't know.
Okay. Can you elaborate more on that, or what do you know about human trafficking?
I think that's a pretty good synopsis. I mean, like, I feel like people get manipulated into going into the system by like false trust and stuff like that. So I think that it's really important for us to be more aware of like people we're hanging out with in the areas that we're hanging out in.
So do you know what kind of population human trafficking would be more focused on? Maybe like, do you think it's females are mostly trafficked, males, teenagers, kids?
Definitely females, but honestly, the age range varies a lot. I know that it is a lot of younger girls, but a lot of middle-aged women are subject to.
Where is human trafficking located in the southwest region of Florida?
It's everywhere. It's in all 5 counties and more. We provide a home plan for it because if you think geographically, it's the ideal location for Central, South American countries to transport. At the same farming as an industry. That provides a safe harbor for traffickers, or it's going to be tough to spot them down. Are you asking about domestic or international?
Domestic and international.
Okay, domestically, we have girls who are typically brought from Midwest that we've had. There's no correct right answer that I could give you that's going to say, okay, this is where the girls are brought from. But Southwest Florida is, it's a breeding ground, so to speak. We are not equipped enough either in services or in rehabilitation where, we have been able to stop the crime. I mean, low wages, lack of language, lack of skills. You see this one? If you talk about Lee County, then it would change a little bit.
Human trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery in which victims are used for forced labor or sexual exploitation.
Some of the forms of human trafficking include sexual exploitation, trafficking for labor, trafficking for organs, and also child slaves and soldiers. The common link between all of these forms of human trafficking is that they violate human rights.
The U.S. Department of State estimates that around 600,000 to 800,000 people, mostly women and children, are trafficked across the national.
Human traffickers obtain their victims through false promises, kidnapping, and false job opportunities. The reason that they need these victims is for money, which is their main goal out of it. And the reason that the victims endure through all these hardships is because they do it for their family, to help support them, and that they're afraid that their family might be killed if they do not do what their trafficker says.
Every case is the same. There are ways to identify survivors of human trafficking. You can tell by the way they look and by the way they act. If they're anxious or fearsome because they are afraid of being deported, or they've just been brainwashed to think that our police is correct. Also, if they have physical abuse or they have lack of nutrition, and if someone is always standing around them and won't let them speak for themselves, then that's a sign to be suspicious.
If you suspect a trafficking case in your community, please call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888.
Be aware.
Be vigilant. And don't be scared to report anything suspicious.